Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a literally explosive political thriller from the ancient epic, the Mahabharata. It's known as the House of Lac. I mean, just imagine this. You're invited to a luxurious palace, right? A total VIP experience, but then you realize every single wall around you is a meticulously crafted weapon designed to end your life.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because the dramatic irony here is just off the charts. The source text tells us about this glorious mansion built in the town of Varanavata. To the public, and honestly to anyone just looking at it, this place was actually named the Blessed Home. It was supposed to be a totally safe haven, a grand royal residence for the noble sons of Pandu. But when we look closer at the text, the chilling reality hits. This was a cursed house. It wasn't built to shelter them at all. It was built to burn them alive. The stakes here literally could not be higher. From the exact moment they step foot through those doors, a countdown starts on a deadly, fiery assassination plot.
To really appreciate the absolute brilliance of this trap, we gotta look at the timeline of the deception. So when the virtuous Yudhishthira and his brothers first arrive in this bustling town, it is a massive, joyous occasion. I'm talking thousands of citizens showing up in all kinds of vehicles to greet them. They're getting blessed by the brahmanas, welcomed by town officials, just totally adored by everyone. It is overwhelming positive reinforcement. And then a man named Purochana steps in. He leads them to these beautiful temporary quarters, hooking them up with the finest food, drink, beds, and these incredibly costly robes. For 10 whole nights, the Pandavas live in absolute luxury, completely doted on by their host. But why? Because the architect of this trap knows a fundamental rule. Before you spring a snare, you have to completely disarm your prey. It's only after these 10 nights of lulling them into a totally false sense of security that the so-called blessed home is finally introduced.
So who is the guy pulling the strings on the ground? Meet our primary operative, Purochana. Now the text describes him as a wicked wretch, but make no mistake, he is also a highly trusted artist and a seriously skilled operative. And he isn't acting alone either. He's under direct instructions from the incredibly ambitious and wealthy Duryodhana. Purochana's entire psychological strategy is based on one thing: patience. His specific objective is to stay super close, play the perfect host, and wait. He's waiting to strike only when he sees that Yudhishthira and his brothers have become 100% trustful. He is literally the smiling assassin, just biding his time for that perfect moment of vulnerability.
But well, the smiling assassin seriously underestimates his target. Because Yudhishthira isn't just virtuous, the guy is incredibly observant. When they finally walk into the blessed home, Yudhishthira immediately starts inspecting the architecture. And he doesn't just look, he uses all his senses. Ultimately, it's the smell that gives the whole thing away. He catches this very distinct scent of fat mixed with clarified butter, along with preparations of lac, which by the way is a highly flammable resin. In a split second, the illusion of this grand palace just shatters. Yudhishthira realizes they haven't been gifted a home at all. They've been locked inside a giant bomb.
Now, what's really interesting about this assassin's blueprint is the sheer grounded physics of this ancient death trap. I mean, this wasn't some mystical, magical curse. It was a devastatingly practical feat of engineering. The text lays out the exact materials used by these highly skilled artists. They procured hemp, resin, heath, straw, and bamboos. Now, what do all those have in common? They catch fire incredibly fast. But the really fatal twist? They soaked all of these structural materials in clarified butter. Literally every pillar, every wall, every beam was basically drenched in ancient gasoline. If even a single spark caught, the entire structure would go up in a completely inescapable inferno in seconds. No way out.
Fortunately though, Yudhishthira wasn't caught entirely off guard. While his own senses confirmed the trap, he already had this really crucial piece of intelligence in his back pocket. The text reveals that his highly intelligent youngest uncle, Vidura, had secretly warned him about this exact danger beforehand. Vidura, acting out of pure affection, knew all about the sinister plots being hatched in secret by Duryodhana's operatives. And this is such a vital lesson in information warfare. Having a trusted inside source, someone who genuinely wishes for your good, can literally be the difference between life and death. Because of Vidura's warning, Yudhishthira walked into that house with his senses wide awake.
Once the trap is confirmed, we get this really fascinating contrast in leadership and crisis management between the brothers. So Yudhishthira explains that the house is made of these highly inflammable materials, right? And his powerful brother, Bhima, has a very understandable, action-oriented reaction. Bhima's like, look, if this house is a trap, we need to just turn around and go back to our old quarters.
His instinct is immediate flight. Just get out of the cursed house. It's that totally natural human flight response kicking in when you're suddenly faced with imminent, terrifying danger.
But right here is where Yudhishthira proves his absolute strategic brilliance. He stops Bhima and explains why, paradoxically, fleeing an active death trap is actually a guaranteed death sentence. Yudhishthira realizes that Purochana is watching their faces closely. He's watching for any sign of panic. If they suddenly bolt, Purochana's going to know his design has been fathomed. And acting in haste, he wouldn't hesitate for a second to just burn them alive right then and there. Purochana absolutely does not care about sin or public outcry. But it gets worse. Even if they did somehow escape the town, the overarching political reality would just destroy them anyway.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark political reality and massive power imbalance they're dealing with. Look at the two sides. On one hand, you have the Pandavas. In their current state, they've got no rank, no official power, no friends or allies they can call on, and they are completely broke. On the other hand, you have their enemy, Duryodhana. He is ruthlessly ambitious for sovereignty. He's got powerful friends and allies everywhere, and crucially, he has a massive, full treasury at his command. Yudhishthira knows for a fact that if they run, Duryodhana will just use his immense wealth to hire an army of spies and assassins to hunt them down in the open.
Yudhishthira takes this cold, calculating logic even further, asking a pretty chilling question about their own family. He wonders if Purochana burns them to death, will their grandfather Bhima or the other Kuru leaders actually retaliate? He evaluates the political fallout and realizes there is a very real chance their murder would just be swept under the rug. I mean, why would the incredibly powerful Bhima risk fracturing the entire kingdom and angering the current ruling faction just to avenge them? Sure, they might consider the act sinful, but would they actually go to war over it? Probably not. The Pandavas are entirely on their own. Literally no one is coming to save them.
So let's recap their situation. They are politically isolated, severely out-resourced, and currently sleeping inside a house soaked in clarified butter that could be set on fire at literally any moment. Fleeing gets them killed by spies. Staying gets them burned alive. So what do? Well, this brings us to Yudhishthira's survival protocol. He formulates a plan that requires immense discipline, incredible psychological fortitude, and a whole lot of grueling physical labor. It is an absolute masterclass in how to dismantle a trap from the inside, all without alerting the guy holding the trigger.
Let's see how this builds into 3 distinct, highly actionable tactical phases. Step 1 is psychological deception. They absolutely must continue living in the house in seeming unsuspiciousness. They have to perfectly disguise their true feelings to deceive both Purochana and Duryodhana, make them think everything is totally fine. Step 2 is reconnaissance. Yudhishthira proposes they lead a hunting life, basically constantly wandering the earth outside the town. But this isn't for sport. It's a cover to secretly map out all the paths and terrain so they know exactly how to navigate the wilderness once they do escape. And finally, step 3, the physical countermeasure. They have to secretly dig a subterranean passage right out of their own chamber. This subterranean passage is the ultimate trump card. And just think about the sheer nerve this requires. While Purochana is right outside their door, literally just waiting for them to get comfortable so he can strike, the Pandavas are inside, actively digging a literal tunnel to freedom. Yudhishthira emphasizes that this has to be done with absolute privacy. Neither Purochana nor a single citizen of Varanavata can know what they're up to. They have to silently move the earth, hiding their work every single day, smiling at their would-be assassin by daylight, and digging their way out of their own grave by night.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of Yudhishthira's brilliant strategy, which is so beautifully captured in this quote from the text: "Fire shall never be able to consume us." He realizes that you don't defeat an overwhelming enemy by just rushing out to meet them in a blind panic, like Bhima initially wanted to do. No, true strategic genius lies in maintaining the facade. You let your enemy believe their trap is working perfectly, and then, right there in the blind spot of their own arrogance, you quietly, meticulously build your own escape route. It's all about controlling your fear and actively working for your safety in the shadows.
Which leaves us with this final heart-pounding question based on the text. We know the deadly butter-soaked layout of the House of Lac, we know the ruthless, calculated patience of Purochana, and we know about the desperate, secret digging of the Pandavas. It is a literal race against time. So, who's going to finish their work first? Will Purochana decide the moment is finally right and ignite those walls, or will Yudhishthira and his brothers break through the earth and vanish into the night? It's a spectacular cliffhanger from this ancient epic, and it really reminds us that sometimes the most incredible battles are fought entirely in secret. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the ground beneath your feet.